Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon. My name is Sharon. I am the Chief Operating Officer of DiscoverYourPathU. And today I thought I would just take a few moments to share with you my why. I know that Misty shared with you earlier on today the why for DYPU as an organization, but I wanted to take a few moments and share with you my why this is important to me. So as most of you who know me know, I have had a life full of trauma, abuse, and pain. That has been a large portion of my life. And as a result, I have been an at-risk person repeatedly throughout my life. I have been without a home to call my own. I have lived in places where the food wasn't the best, if I got any food at all. And if I didn't get any food at all, I might be taking it out of trash cans. I've been a drug addict for almost a decade. I've lived a very hard life. And one of the things that is most important to me about DYPU, my biggest why for being here, is that the one person who got through to me, the one person who the very night that I came in to the homeless shelter to get sober, she said one thing, one simple little thing, but it was so authentically her that when she said it, it rocked my world. I am the eldest child of a gay minister. I'm the eldest gay child of a very, very, very religious family. And growing up, I did not feel like I belonged. I felt that everything that went on in my family had to do with me not being enough or me being bad. So when I got out into the real world and kind of trashed my own life, as a result, I didn't really know how to piece things back together again. And the last thing I wanted involved in any of that was God, because God had turned me away, God had abandoned me, and God had left me. And as a result, when I got to this homeless shelter this first night, I spent maybe 20 minutes in this homeless shelter. And mind you, I didn't have family that wanted to see me coming. I had no friends. The girlfriend that I had at the time had kicked me out of her house because she didn't want anything to do with me anymore, and rightfully so. I had nowhere to go and nothing to turn to. And yet, when I walked into the group room of this homeless facility and I see step 3 out of the 12 steps, make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him, suddenly I wasn't that bad. Suddenly I didn't need help, because the last person or entity on earth that I was going to accept help from was that God that I hated and detested. And as a result, I was ready to leave not that long after getting there, and with nowhere to go and no one to help me, I was still ready to leave. And that night, there was this AA meeting every Friday night, and a woman came to that meeting to speak on the panel named Kim. And Kim is still one of my very good friends to this day. And one of the things that Kim shared that's so off the beaten path, that's so unusual, was that her higher power was a Jewish guy named Lou. And I remember being so blown away by that statement, just like, how does that even work? And then in the very back of my mind, those little recesses where that quiet, still voice comes from, that little voice said, well, if she can do it, maybe you can. And I stayed. And I've been sober 15 years now. Had she not been in a place where she was free to be exactly who she was and share with me her truth, as odd as it may sound to everyone else, I would be dead. So for me, the importance of Discover Your Path U is that every life can teach. Every life can teach. Not only can every life teach, but every single person can grow. It does not matter how down and out you are. It does not matter how much your heart hurts. It does not matter how much you have been through. If you want to grow and change, you can. So the authenticity in the DYPU community, where you get to be you, no matter how that looks and no matter how that sounds and no matter if somebody else does or doesn't like it, affords you that opportunity to be a Kim in someone else's life. To be that person that says something that sounds so off the wall and so unusual, and yet it absolutely changes the life of another human being. When Misty Flanagan and I first began working on this months and months and months ago, the most important thing for both of us, and still to this day, the most important thing about this community, is that you get to be you. It doesn't matter what that looks like. It doesn't matter how many times you've been shamed for it before. It doesn't matter. What matters is that that unique voice with that unique history and those unique talents and abilities, with that unique experience and faith and all the other words that I can't come up with right now, all those will one day be necessary to reach one person who's lost and afraid and broken. That can be the difference between somebody living or dying. And here at DYPU, more than anything else in the world, we want to create an army of Kims. We want to create an army of coaches who are absolutely enthralled with their own authenticity, who are enthralled with the way that they do things, who are fully invested in the techniques that they use and in the modalities that they've chosen because they have been uniquely tinkered in such a way to be their own. So that when you're across from a client, what comes out of your mouth isn't the words of some would-be guru, but what comes out of your mouth are the words of your own guru, you. The lessons that you've learned, the techniques that you have tried, the tools that you have developed, that is what shows up for your clients. And more than anything else in this world, more than anything, that is important. Because whether you believe it or not, and I'll be discussing this tomorrow morning a little bit more in depth, whether you believe yourself to be capable of doing this or not, whether you believe yourself to be unique enough, whether you believe yourself to be strong enough, whether you believe yourself to be gifted enough, rich enough, whatever it may be, whether you believe it or not, you are. And you are because there are no mistakes. You were not put here as a mistake. You are not an accident. And the gifts and the truths that you have to share are invaluable. So we would like to welcome you to join us in being truly your most unique and highest version of yourself here in Discover Your Path You with us. Come find out what you're capable of. Come find out what you can actually create and put out into the world when you're given the space to discover the amazing being that you are. If you want to do a spiritual coaching practice, great. If you want to do a pragmatic coaching practice, great. If you want to combine them, great. If you're just here to learn how to use coaching in a way to develop for yourself, great. If you're a teacher, great. Just be you. Just be you. Because the gifts that you bring to the table may well, whether you know it or not, at some point in another human being's life, change them forever. And if you weren't allowed to discover those words for yourself, if they were handed to you by another person, if you were told what's right and what's wrong, instead of you getting to develop that unique phrase from your abilities, your history, your experience, it's so important. It's so important that we all be given the space to do this. So my why, my reason for being not only here at DYPU, but for doing what I do, for the Phoenix Reboot, for Foolproof Freedom, for being a sponsor and a spiritual counselor. All of the reasons for why I do this is to be a Kim in someone else's life, is to be that person that shows up and says whatever it is that comes to my heart when it comes there so that I can change the life of another human being. And as we all know as helpers, that's where we all are at, the desire to help. And DYPU, more than anything else, wants to give you the space, the freedom to be authentic, and the tools to do just that. I can't think of another organization that I would rather, number one, be responsible for helping to co-found, number two, be the chief operating officer for, but number three, be a teacher in. I can't think of another organization that I would rather be an instructor in than this one. And the reason is to get to see who you become and what you create and the life that you decide for you, not because someone else told you what you can or can't do, but because you've had the freedom to try things on and to figure out exactly who you are and to fall in love with that and to have confidence in it, and that confidence shows up with you where you go. That's my why. So this next week of pre-launch, launch shenanigans will be fantastic. We have lives coming up throughout the week. We have events going on this week. As Misty said, we will have several more events going on in the actual week of the launch. We are pulling out all the stops to show you exactly what we're capable of and give you a taste of what DYPU wants to not only be for the world and for our own individual communities and for us as individual board members, but for you as students and teachers as well. Let us teach you to expect more. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow. As always, mwah! Love having you around. Love knowing that you've been here with me. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can find me on Facebook Messenger. I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.